Good morning, and thank you for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We've got a great show for you guys today. We're going to be covering the SEC and the Big Ten would have left the CFP if the new contract wasn't reached. We'll also be touching more on the FSU and ACC trial. We'll also be talking about what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS conference, and make sure you guys stick around for later in the show. We'll be diving into Caitlin Clark and her record-breaking jersey sales. Before we start, though, I wanted to ask that you guys like and follow the show. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. The tips and donation link is gsmcpodcast.net. This just puts your question at the top of the list so I can see it, and it also really helps the show. Hello, Tate. How are you?
How are you doing this morning?
I'm good.
I'm a little lighter on the hair
Yeah,
this week today.
yeah, I was
finally
going to comment on that.
I'd gotten a little too scruffy,
Mhm.
so you were making me look bad. So I'm like, I gotta step up my game a little bit here.
Yeah.
And then pretty much I was checking out some of the NBA games
Mhm.
yesterday, which was kind of interesting because a number, you always talk about how a series really doesn't start until someone loses a home game.
Mhm.
Well, it happened.
Oh.
The Clippers lost to the Mavericks, even in their series up one game apiece. That's going to be a great series. That's a 7-game series.
Mhm.
And then Indiana blowing out uh, the Bucks by almost 20, but I think it was about 7 by 17. I have it being, I still predict the upset on that one.
Mhm.
So I got the Pacers actually beating the Bucks. The Bucks without Giannis, that's a tall order for the Bucks to overcome the Pacers without Giannis.
Mhm.
So that was kind of interesting as well.
Yeah.
So I was checking out the games, but we have other things to talk about today. So
We
it's
yeah.
not all basketball.
Yeah.
The last few days have been just all
Yes,
basketball. I
strictly
still wanted to
basketball.
sprinkle in a little
Mhm.
acknowledgement that the NBA playoffs are going on,
Mhm.
but we have other things to talk about.
Yes, we have mainly college football today.
Yes,
That's
it's
usually
pretty much it's all pretty much you could tie it all to all of its college, really.
well,
The
I guess
last one,
technically, but it's about
someone Caitlin's going
NBA,
from college
WNBA.
and now being drafted, and we're talking about
Mhm.
that one too.
Yeah.
So, all right, what do you
Alrighty.
have for me?
So the SEC and the Big Ten would have left the CFP if the new contract wasn't reached. Prior to reaching an agreement on an expanded college football playoff last month, the NCAA was reportedly facing the danger of losing the SEC and Big Ten from the postseason. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and the Big Ten Commissioner Tom Petitti told Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports that a pivotal meeting 2 years ago would have been the breaking point. Absolutely, Sankey responded when asked if the SEC would have left the CFP. When we ended that set of meetings in January of 2022 without a decision, I was clear. If you are going to walk away from this opportunity, we are going to reevaluate our position on format, revenue sharing, and governance. Notre Dame's athletic director and the 10 FBS commissioners who led the college football playoff are set to meet on Tuesday in Dallas for their annual 2-day spring summit, which will be the first time they met since they reached an agreement on the new CFP television deal, revenue distribution model, and format. Under the new revenue model, the SEC and Big Ten are making a combined 58% of all CFP cash, Dellinger noted. The deal was necessary to keep both conferences in the fold. I think we felt confident that we were willing, if we couldn't craft a deal, that we would look at other options. We would have to start over, Petitti said. Without seeing a better alignment, we weren't going to sign. We were 100% confident and made it clear that we were only going to do that deal that worked for us. Dellinger pointed to a January 2022 meeting over a proposed expansion format as the pivotal moment that led to the current power share by the SEC and Big Ten. When discussions grew heated, some people left the meeting due to frustrations over the lack of progress. The recent era of conference realignment eventually led to the SEC and Big Ten becoming modern super leagues, so their demands eventually had to be met. Sankey added, "People called me after the latest deal and said, 'Why did you guys take a hard line? Why did you put us in this position?' I said, 'You guys walked away from the deal.'" So,
okay, this shines some light on things that even I didn't know about. The way it sounds to me, and I've been looking at some other places where they've been talking about it as well, and other people who've interviewed them, is that in 2022 there was a deal proposed that would have expanded playoffs. It would have been even. Everyone would have had an even, ACC would have got in, Big Ten, the Big 12, everyone would have got in evenly. It would have been like a nice even split of revenue. And it sounds like members from the ACC, Big 12, back then Pac-12, wanted other things. So much so that they were so caught up in what they wanted, they didn't think about what was best for college football. So much so that one of the members decided to pack up and walk out. From that point, according to Sankey and the rest of the guys that are talking about this, they're saying, okay, they walked out on this, so we're going to rethink things. We're going to look at things and say, what's best for us? Before, it was always going to be even, laid out the way it's always been, but expanded playoffs. And other people had other agendas going on. And one of them was like, we want to address player safety and this, and these are all things that could have been talked about later. They were just trying to get a college football program playoff format in. And some of the other people that were involved were so hell-bent on getting their own personal agendas taken care of for what they wanted. They didn't think about what was best for college football and ended up walking out. The SEC decided, you know what? We're going to reassess things. We're going to look at what's best for us going forward. They talked to the Big Ten. Big Ten kind of felt the same way, which then brought us to where we're at today, where the SEC and the Big Ten are like, listen, we dominate this program. We tried to do it the regular way. They're the ones that didn't want to do it. So now we're going to do it. They have their agenda. Now we're going to put our agenda in place, which is the Big Ten and the SEC are the two biggest conferences. The SEC has been a little bit more successful. There's no competition when it comes to when you're watching television. The Big Ten's viewership is exponentially larger than everyone else's, including the SEC. I sent you a chart with that showing you before. I think I sent that to you some time ago. It was just a message. It doesn't matter. But the Big Ten overwhelmingly has the viewership. Plus, they've won. They're always in the playoffs. They're some of the best teams in football. And so it allowed the Big Ten and SEC to just say, you know what? We're going to look out for us. And which rolls into what we have today, which everyone is trying to leave the other two conferences and get to the Big Ten or the SEC. And they're saying, listen, we want more teams getting selected. We want multiple, automatic bids. We want majority of the money. 56% of the money needs to come to the Big Ten and the SEC, and then everybody else can have the rest. The other 44% is divided between everyone else. And according to this could have been all avoided in 2022 if some people would have just stepped back and said, forget about my personal agendas that I want to push through. let's get the program, let's get the college football part taken care of, and then move forward. From there, also, it sounds like after that meeting in 2022, when they were looking at people walking out, and people, other people, kind of having their own agendas, it kind of seems like to me that's when the Big Ten and SEC started thinking about, like, hey, do we just break away from these guys, and do we start our own playoffs? And if we don't start our own playoffs, the next time we talk about playoffs, it's going to be slanted toward us, and we're going to get the lion's share, or there's nothing at all. We'll just walk away and form a new conference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that meeting in 2022 is the watershed moment that changed college football to where it's at today. Because I felt like after watching this, I think the Big Ten and SEC were okay with, hey, we got a great television deal, but our format should be every conference champion gets into the playoffs, and then it's just the at-large bids are, the highest ranked teams. Get a group of 5 team in there. It looks like that was the plan, but sometimes personal agendas get in the way of it, and I feel like it changed everything. What was your take after reading the article? How did you see it?
I mean, I wasn't I wasn't necessarily shocked by this news. The SEC and the Big Ten seem to have always been the ones trying to get the most amount of money and everything like that, because obviously they do dominate with viewership and everything like that. So I wasn't shocked reading this. I think honestly I'm a little shocked that after reading this, that they are still a part of the NCAA. Honestly, that's how I felt about it.
Here's the scary thing. The NCAA takes a lot of heat from these universities.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA is very necessary because the NCAA deals with things that the other universities don't want to have to bother with. They handle a lot of the old class action lawsuits and all the different issues that come up so that the universities and the chancellors don't have to deal with it. That's kind of one of the things about the NCAA. That's the reason why so many universities are so reluctant to leave the NCAA. Because, yes, the SEC and the Big Ten, let's say they leave, then now they have to handle all these different lawsuits. Players get injured, all the different insurance issues, any federal regulations that come against them, everything they have to handle. That's the NCAA's job. Colleges and conferences' jobs are just to take care of their schools, get their games played, schedule, do the basic stuff that you do in running a season, whether it's basketball, baseball, gymnastics, it doesn't matter. The schools handle that. But a lot of the dirty work that a lot of schools and chancellors don't want to do, that's where they are. The NCAA is so necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And now universities and schools are going to would have to handle a lot of that on their own, which right now they don't have to. But I was more surprised that, because the Big Ten SEC has been kind of painted as the bad guy. And this article kind of shows, like, hey, we were on board with all of us being kind of treated, my take on it, equal, that, each conference gets a bid, things of that nature. But after 2022, that's when it changed. I kind of felt like, while reading this article, it was more like, and also I'm looking at other other articles, other shows, and things of that nature, and getting their views as well. So I've gotten a lot of places where I've gotten information at this. After this meeting, that's when the SEC decided, hey, I'm looking out for myself. They're looking out for themselves. It's time that we start looking out for ourselves. And they're not going to like what we do. And so then they reached out to the Big Ten. Big Ten was on board. And then these other conferences, ACC, Big 12, the other schools are kind of like, hey, why did you turn on us? And it's like, hey, we didn't turn on you. You guys turned on us back in 2022. You set the standard. We just excelled at it. They knew they had the power. These other people thought they had the power, but it's a big difference between thinking you have the power and actually having the power. And the Big Ten and SEC is now showing the power, the prestige, everything's on their side, and they're going to start looking out for what's best for them. And I think it really hurt college football. And I think walking out of that meeting, I think it's changed football forever in many ways.
See, I disagree with that. When I was reading
come
this,
on, let me fire away. I'm loving this. This is good.
when I was reading the article, I do not feel like this painted the Big Ten and the SEC in a better light. Because
Okay.
from the quotes that were pulled, the Big Ten's commissioner said something. Without seeing better alignment, we weren't going to sign. We were only going to do a deal that worked for us. So from what it sounds like, to me reading this is the Big Ten and the SEC have only been looking out for themselves and not really taking into consideration the other conferences. Now, I understand that they make more money and they get more viewership and everything like that. But for me, it feels like the SEC and the Big Ten have really only cared about themselves, and not have really taken into consideration the other conferences. I feel like it's always been it's me or them type of mentality with them. That's how I feel about it.
See, and I understand where you're coming from and where you read that from. I got the vibe when you look at this article and other things is this happened after 2022. After 2022, it was like, you know what? We're only going to sign a deal that benefits us. Once the guy, I think it's the guy from the Pac-12, walked out of the meeting, and once he walked out of the meeting, that's the vibe I got was from that point on, the Big Ten and SEC is like, we're not signing any deal that doesn't benefit us, even if it means we have to leave, the NCAA. That's how I got it. You didn't see it that way, or
I don't view it that way. No.
That's kind of cool. See, I love it that you don't. There's the great thing about this is we're both taking in the same information, and so you think I'm not my job. I'm not here to convince you that I'm right and you're wrong, or vice versa. I wanted to know, when you're reading this, do you see that it seemed like before 2022 there was a deal in place, and it wasn't about what's best for the Big Ten and SEC until afterwards? You don't see it that way, or?
Me personally, no, I don't see it that way. As much as I am a big SEC fan, I mean,
I know you are.
We all know that I am a diehard Georgia Bulldog fan, but I don't know. The SEC and the Big Ten just seem so selfish, and I've been able to see that.
Can I ask this question real quick? Or I'm going to let you finish this. Your feelings on this, is this what you just kind of what you have from, what you see has happened now? Or are you saying from reading that article, you felt like they were selfish even before, because I didn't get that from the article. That's why I was asking.
I feel it's both. That's just, like I said, I'm a huge SEC fan, but I feel like the SEC and the Big Ten have very selfish tendencies, and they only want to get the most amount of money because that's what's going to benefit them, and they're not. I mean, because we've had discussions about the Super League and everything like that too, and that would fix all the issues that are going on in college football right now. And obviously we've said that the SEC and the Big Ten just aren't going to do that because they're going to lose out on money. They're not going to have all the power that they have right now. So I don't know.
And you know what? Taking your approach, one of the hardest things to do in the world is take power from someone or have someone relinquish power. Power corrupts more than anything. Money is the second most powerful thing. You can get people to separate from money, but power is a hard thing to separate from. You give someone money and power, that makes it twice as hard. And so I can see where you're coming from, because those are the two most powerful, influential leagues and wealthiest leagues in college football. The thing that surprises me the most through this whole thing is still Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been quiet. They don't mind taking a little less money as long as they can stay independent. We're still like a tick below the Big Ten and the SEC, but they've been pretty quiet through all of this. That's the one who shocked me the most. I thought they would be one of the more vocal universities, but they've been super quiet as well. I love how your take on things, because I can see how you see this, especially going to an SEC school, understanding how things are. It gives you a different view and take on some of these articles. So I think that's fantastic that you know your opinion on that one. So, all right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're still going to be in the college football world, and we'll be discussing the latest on the FSU and ACC lawsuit. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on their fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about the SEC and the Big Ten would have left the college football playoff if the new contract wasn't reached, and now we're going to be talking more about the FSU and ACC lawsuit. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind you guys to like and follow the show. We get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on the air, I ask that you use the tips and donation link with your question. That link is gsmcpodcast.net. This just puts your question at the top of the list so I can see it, and it also really helps the show. Alrighty, welcome back to the telenovela of what.
Let's see. This one I'm very curious on. I did not read this one, so I wanted to hear what was going on with this one. So this is interesting.
It's messy. It's
Oh,
messy
you're
for
like,
sure.
all right,
So,
let's dive into this one.
so we have two articles for this section. So I think what I might do is I might read half of the first one and then half of the second one, and then we can pick what we want to talk about. So
Okay, because cool. Okay, you know way more than I do on this one, so.
So Florida State takes home court loss in the AC lawsuit, but the case is not over. So it didn't take much of a Leon County judge handling Florida State University's home court loss Monday in the Seminoles' ongoing litigation against the Atlantic Coast Conference. That request was essentially part of the ruling the Judge John C. Cooper made from the bench at the end of the latest hearing about the FSU's future in the ACC. I want to make sure everyone understands the case is still going on, Cooper said. It's not over. It is, however, taking a detour from technical reasons. That's because the judge granted the ACC's motion to dismiss the case, but will let FSU amend its complaint. The issue is whether Room 3G of the Leon County Courthouse has the personal jurisdiction to hear FSU's lawsuit against the Charlotte-based ACC. The conference argued FSU didn't properly make the case. One of the ACC attorneys, Amber Nunley, said Florida State's filings were insufficient or misdirection. What it really comes down to is they messed up, Nunley said. The judge agreed, granting the conference motion. That, however, is not the end of this debate, let alone this case. Some of the 3 hour of arguments centered on, we told you this was technical, the first subsection under Florida statute 48.193, Section 1A. FSU's counsel suggested the ACC can be in a Tallahassee courtroom because the league does business in Florida. Miami and FSU are both conference members, and the ACC makes TV money from games that takes place in Leon County. The conference also pays FSU money for those games and production costs. But those points were not adequately addressed or explained in the 59-page amended complaint FSU filed in January. The judge will give Florida State 7 days from his order to fix the issues through an updated suit. The ACC will have 20 days to respond, and Cooper will consider the revised arguments at another hearing. So that's the first article, part of the first article.
Hey, that already has me scratching my head. Like, okay, before you go to the next one, yeah. I'm just saying, if you're filing a lawsuit and you're filing a 59-page brief, shouldn't at least one page be like, hey, this is the reason why we're filing in this county? Mm-hmm. Don't you think?
Yeah. I don't know if that's
because they didn't really explain why they were filing in Leon County, which is nuts. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'll let you keep on, and then you go ahead and we'll dive into it.
So the next article is Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody considering action in the FSU's ongoing lawsuit with the ACC. So the state of Florida is weighing action against the Atlantic Coast Conference in support of Florida State's legal battle against the conference. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody penned a letter on April 17th to the Attorney Generals of 6 states with member schools in the ACC, California, Georgia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, and Virginia. In her letter, she stated that Florida is considering taking action in FSU's appeal against the ACC in North Carolina court. FSU sued the ACC in December over its media rights and exuberant penalty. They said it would cost to jump ship. The ACC filed a lawsuit on December 21st against FSU, claiming that Florida State explicitly agreed that it would not take action or permit any action to be taken by others subjects in its control that would affect the validity and enforcement of the grant of rights. On Thursday, April 4th, Judge Louis A. Beldos ruled the North Carolina case could proceed and also denied FSU's motion to stay the case. And I also, in this article, there is the letter from the Florida Attorney General that she sent. So if we want to look at that later, we can.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? Because okay, fire away. I want to hear it. Give me a little bit.
I was just gonna say real quick these articles. So the first one is from Tampa Bay Sports, I believe. Tampa Bay Times. That's where the first one is from. And then the second one is Tallahassee Democrat, which I believe is in connection with USA Today. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Give me your thoughts. What did you get from this one?
I don't have any thoughts right now. Reading all of this, I'm confused. It's a lot of information to digest. From essentially, I guess what's going on is that Florida State can't necessarily prove as to why the lawsuit should be held in Florida. And I guess they thought in the beginning that they would be able to get in Florida, and now the judge is like saying no. The Florida judge is saying no, I think. And so they have to amend their complaint in order to prove why it should be held in a Florida court instead of North Carolina court. But all of this is just really complicated. It hurts my brain reading all of this.
See, okay. From what I took from it is the North Carolina court was like, okay, the ACC headquarters are in our state. Therefore, the case should be heard in Carolina. But the Florida one was like, okay, you don't play games in Leon County. Why is this being filed in this county? And Florida did not have anything in their brief explaining why. And from what I took from you reading this, the attorney came back later and said that the games are played in the state of Florida, which are then seen in Leon County. That means games are being watched in Leon County. They're being played in the state of Florida. Revenue comes in to the county or from the county by people watching the games. And that's the reason why it should be in there. But it was not in the brief on to why it should have been filed in that county. It kind of concerned me with the lawyers, because one of the first things you do when dealing with a lawsuit, you either show documentation stating that all parties have already agreed that either through arbitration or through court would be filed in this particular city or state or county courtroom. That's one of the first things. You have one of those documents that you have saying this is where these cases can be tried. Then if you don't have that, it should have been at least a one-sheeter in the legal brief stating, okay, this is being filed in this district. Here is the reason why it is filed in this district. That should have been a no-brainer especially for a 59-page legal brief, to not have a one-sheeter explaining on why it has been filed. Your Honor, this is the reason why we're filing in this court. So when a judge or someone, because it's obvious, the SEC does not want this case being heard in Florida. So we know that you knew this before this article, right? That the Florida State wanted to have it heard in the state of Florida. The ACC wanted it heard in North Carolina because of where Their headquarters are headquartered. So if you know that when you're filing your brief, that should have been in there, because you know that is one of the things that the ACC is fighting against, is saying, no, it should not be heard here. So there needs to be a brief filed stating, hey, this is why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like this is just basic. I've dealt with a lot of lawyers. This is something that I feel like should have automatically been in there. And that shows me, or concerns me enough to say, that it makes it seem like Florida State was so quick to try to get to filing their case that they didn't dot all their I's and T's on and cross their T's on this particular thing, that they were moving forward so fast that they didn't catch anything. They didn't catch a simple document like this. Now, with that being said, the judge didn't throw it out, but gave them an extension to be able to put that document in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it does seem a little sloppy on Florida State's side that they didn't have that already. And now the judge is going to give them a chance to put that in and then rule, after looking at their document, is this the right court system that this case needs to be filed in? If they don't, then it'll be thrown out in Florida and it'll continue in Carolina. But did you really want the judge having to deal with that and having to wait and knowing, hey, you didn't do this, when you have possibly over $700 million in penalties that could cost you to come out to leave the ACC? Wouldn't you think their lawyers would have hit everything? There would have been, that thing should have been spotless and seamless, double check, triple check, quadruple check, right?
Here's the question. What the hell are these lawyers doing? I mean,
whoa. Let me sit back here.
How do you not have these points that obviously need to be made in front of a judge? You have a 59-page amended complaint that you filed in January. 59 pages. How in those 59 pages did you miss the fact of explaining why you want to have the case in Florida and not North Carolina?
A grievance and arbitration clause that should have been in there. Second of all,
needs to get fired.
Shouldn't that be? And the next question I have is, when you're signing the grant of rights, why isn't there a grievance and an arbitration clause in the granted rights contract in general?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little surprised. This isn't for high-end legal. This is standard operating procedure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you sign an employment contract or anything else, there is an arbitration clause there. How do you not have that? That's the thing that was most surprising here. It showed me that, it definitely showed me that I felt like Florida State it felt like more they were rushing to get this done. I felt like after hearing this, they were upset about the national championship, not being into the college football playoffs, being undefeated, and they hastily went and got this lawsuit put in here, because this is not something that should have even been. The fact that this is a conversation piece sounds weird.
Yeah.
It's a minor setback. It's a minor setback, but the judge is going to have...
Is it a minor setback? Is it a minor setback, though? That's the fact that they didn't have this in their 59-page amended complaint. And
I think it makes them look bad.
And they have 7 days to fix it. To me, this doesn't sound like a minor setback. This sounds like it could be major because they only have 7 days to fix it, and this shouldn't have happened to begin with. So
I could have that fixed. I could add a clause like that in an hour.
right,
But
you have to think about like how the judge's feelings towards the fact that it wasn't in the original.
That's what I'm talking about.
So it doesn't sound like a minor setback to me. It sounds like it could be a major setback for FSU trying to get out of the ACC.
I agree with you because it's a minor setback because it's just a mere document. It's not hard to put in that clause. It's a major. I feel like I understand where you're coming from because it definitely makes the judge wonder why wasn't this done. Yes.
The last thing you want to do is aggravate or annoy the judge that you're trying to grant your case. That's the last thing you want to do.
If you, Faith, were pulled over and for a speeding ticket, and then you were cited for not
that would never happen.
And then you were written up for not having insurance, and you decided to go take it to court, and you went to court, and the judge asked, "Can you show proof of insurance?" And you're like, "Oh, I forgot it." It's kind of like, this is what you're here for. This is what this argument is about. Should it be heard in Florida? Should it be heard in Carolina? Why isn't there a document that says this is the reason why it should be held in Florida? That just sounds simple and basic.
I agree. Tighten up. Tighten up.
Tighten up. That's my girl right there. I agree with you. Tighten up.
Tighten up. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take another quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to be still talking about college football. We're going to be discussing what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS conference. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking more about the FSU and ACC lawsuit, and now we're going to be talking about what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS conference.
Okay. First off, I was going to say, this is one of those few shows that all 4 of our segments are going to be all sports related.
I know,
which is kind of weird for us. You know what I mean? And then, but tomorrow's non-sports show is a doozy.
So stay tuned. Tate picked this one out, so be careful.
It is so true that I picked this one.
Yeah. I just want to let that be known, and I will let that be known tomorrow as well.
So, but it's because we like to let our hair down a little bit right around this point or the next segment. As you see, I cut all mine off here.
All gone.
Yes.
I will not be letting my hair down.
No, you got it all slick. See, it's out. You
don't want to see
slick
that.
Back. No. See, even with the slick back hair, you can kind of see what it would look like. Not everybody can pull that slick back hair. They got that big big watermelon head. You can't have a big old watermelon head or your forehead start back here.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that big giant forehead and be like
Well,
bald.
I appreciate you saying I don't have a big head. I was told all throughout school that I had a big head, so I appreciate it.
Wait a minute though. You gotta remember, you're talking middle school, high school. You're a small girl or lady. And boys like to pick on girls. That was just them. They were picking on you because they had a little crush on you. That was all.
Whatever. Okay. All right. Moving away from that. So our third segment for today is what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS conference. So the Pac-12 conference, which will drop down to 2 members this summer, will no longer be an autonomous conference. The NCAA Division I Board of Directors determined on Monday, which is effective on August 2nd. It will instead be classified as a non-autonomous FSB conference like the Group of Five. The board created new governance thresholds for conferences that fall below membership requirements. As a result, the Pac-12 will lose representation on the board of directors. It will retain representation and voting rights on the Division I Council, the Football Oversight Committee, and the Division I Student Athlete Advisory Committee when applicable. Excuse me, sir.
See, now I was going to correct
Applicable.
you, but I can't. Now I can't say it.
Yeah. It's like once you get in your
I can't
head,
do it.
applicable, I think. Anyway, but y'all know what I mean. But the weight of its council vote will be diminished. Multi-sport conferences are required to have at least 8 members, but in the event they drop below that number, they are allowed a 2-year grace period to get back up. The Pac-12 will lose 10 schools to the Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC this summer, leaving only Oregon State and Washington State. The board's determinations on Monday applied to conferences in that grace period. In 2014, the board created a new autonomy model granting the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC the ability to make some of their own rules together, which happened the next year with full cost of attendance scholarships. The autonomy group became known as the Power Five and regularly held its own meetings but didn't do much else legislatively with the autonomy power. The other 5 FBS conferences became known as the Group of Five, with most of those schools eventually adding cost of attendance as well. The 2-member Pac-12 will now be a part of that lower group, although it will not hold official conference games for the next 2 years. Instead, Oregon State and Washington State have agreed to play most of their sports in the Mountain West, including football for 2024, and West Coast Conference, including basketball for the next 2 years. But football will not be eligible for Mountain West championships or standings. Oregon State baseball will play on an independent schedule. After that, the future is uncertain. The Pac-12 and Mountain West signed an agreement in the fall to work in good faith to merge by 2025-26 or 2026-27 seasons with no cost if the Pac-12 absorbs every Mountain West school, or a cost of upwards of $137.5 million if it takes some but not all of the Mountain West schools. But Oregon State and Washington State are focused first on joining an autonomous conference, and the uncertainty surrounding the future of college sports could spark another upheaval.
This here shows me
This
that
is all just so messy today.
Oh, this shows me today the Pac-12 is dead. The Pac-12 is officially dead.
Yeah.
Which
is so unfortunate. I really had high hopes for them.
It didn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
I think Oregon State and Washington State they had a great opportunity and they let it slip through their fingers. And because when this season ended, I thought the very first thing they would do is merge with the Mountain West. The commissioner of the Mountain West would become the commissioner of the Pac-12. They bring in all the Mountain West schools and join them with the the two Pac-12 schools that were left. You'd have a full conference. They'd still have full voting rights, and then they would fight to keep those rights. But weeks and then months went by, and they didn't bring anyone into the Pac-12 and decided that they were just going to sit there as two schools. This is a death sentence for the Pac-12. The Pac-12 will never, ever, ever be the Pac-12 that we know ever again. If they had done the merger, there would have been a great chance, because you could have brought in all those schools from the Mountain West, merged them in, and just, and then you would have had a new conference. Then you start looking at the fact that they've been holding off and more concerned about making sure that they got as much of the money from those schools that were leaving. That was their only, I feel like that was those two schools' only focus, was making sure they got a chunk of cash and kept the Pac-12 network. That was their big goal. The Pac-12 network, the run, cost them $50 million a year to run. And so I felt like there should have been two tasks that the Pac-12 should have done. Their top two goals in order should have been, number one, merge with the Mountain West or merge with the American, merge with another conference and consume those teams, and then assure that the Pac-12 is still there. They didn't do that, and so wait around, this vote comes in, and now there's no more Pac-12. The Pac-12, it's still there, but it will never be a Power 5 conference again. It's now a Group of 6 conference, meaning that when you start dividing up the money, the Group of 5 always gets the lion's share, and whatever's left goes to the Group of 5, which now would be the Group of 6. No one, as you know this, Faith, you've been watching what's been going on with the money, right? Do you see a situation where the Pac-12 says, hey, we finally got our act together. We brought in these new schools. Now we're going to be a new conference. We want our voting rights back. We want equal share in the money and equal control on the college football playoffs and all the rights that come with that. What have you seen through this whole process that says the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12 are going to say, hey, we're going to relinquish power, relinquish some of our power, relinquish some of our money so that you can become a prestigious power conference again. It's never going to happen again. You've lost that power. It's gone. It's kind of like Montana being part of the Pac-12 once upon a time. Once Montana went down to a lower conference, they never were going to be allowed to come back to the Pac-12 or be considered a power conference again. You look at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech decided to leave the SEC. Right to this day, do you think Georgia Tech would love to be back in the in the SEC again, especially what's going on with the Pac-12, with the ACC? Once you lose that power, it is very hard to reclaim that power ever again. So this is truly the death of the SEC, of the Pac-12. Secondly, when you look at some of the deals that they're not doing deals as in, hey, we want to rebuild the Pac-12. They're saying like $25, $30 million. We want a scheduling allowance with the Mountain West. We want a scheduling allowance with the West Coast Conference. When they're doing a lot of their scheduling, their big emphasis has been, when they're looking at their scheduling for this season and for next season coming up and for future seasons, they're not setting their schedule up in a way so that they can create a new conference. They're setting their schedule up so that they're having relationships with the Big 12 and the ACC, hoping that the ACC or the Big 12 will consume them and they can join one of those conferences. These two schools have not been acting like a conference that is gearing up to rebuild a conference, because they would have never let this vote happen. The smart move would have been, hey, we need to get the schools in place. We can't sit here as a two-school conference for very long before this is going to come up to vote. So they should have been like announcing right away, these schools are all, we're going to be merging with the Mountain West. All these 5 schools or these 10 schools or these schools are all going to be becoming part of the Pac-12. You notice they haven't done this. They drug their feet, because I think there's some people that want to keep the Pac-12 there, but there's enough people that's like, we want to set ourselves up to be invited into the Big 12 or the ACC. I think a lot of these chancellors are looking at what's going on with Miami, Florida State, North Carolina, and Clemson, and saying, listen, these guys are going to leave. And when they do, we're going to pounce. And they're setting, that's why I look at what they've been doing as in setting themselves up more to be consumed by the Pac-12 or the ACC, and less on the last couple of months on how to get more schools. Because there hasn't been any rumors. It started out rumors on they were going to merge with the Mountain West. They're going to merge with the Mountain West. It kept talking about that. And then it just kind of stopped. And it was all about securing money. They got the bag here. Hey, we got the bag. We're getting the college basketball bag. We're going to get the Rose Bowl money. We're going to get these universities that are leaving to agree to pay this amount of money. But there was no big announcement about, hey, they've secured San Diego State to come to the Pac-12. They've secured Boise State to come to the Pac-12. I kept waiting for these kind of announcements to come up, and not one of them came up, not once. Now, you roll around and you see, this vote is coming, Faith. And you have no talks going on with the merging of Mountain West or any schools joining with the Pac-12, and this vote comes up, this vote is coming up. There's no reason to vote to say, yes, we want the Pac-12 to stay a Power 5 school. You've done nothing to keep the Pac-12 a Power 5 school. And now the Pac-12, even if they rebuild the Pac-12, the best it could be is the Mountain West or American Conference. That's the best they can do now. So if they don't pull off the whole, I'm going to the Big 12 or the ACC, if that doesn't work, those two schools are going to end up Power 5 schools, which is incredible. It's a risky move they're making, but they shoved all their ships in the middle and saying, hey, we're setting ourselves up to go to another conference, not create a new conference. Mm-hmm. What do you say on that?
It's a lot of information. I mean, if they
college football is messy, is it not?
Yeah, if they manage, which definitely not going to happen, but if they manage to get those 8 members, then they could be fine where they are right now.
They're never going to get, let's say they get 8 new members. Let's say you pick Boise State, Nevada, South Carolina, San Diego State, Colorado State, and UNLV. Mm-hmm. Why would these schools, they're already in a group of 5 conference. That's not going to, the big thing of going to the Pac-12 was they were already designated a Power 5 conference. So that's the attraction to going there. Now these schools There's no attraction to go there to say, hey, we're going to go from one group of five school to a conference to another group of five conference. It doesn't benefit them because no one's going to vote to say, hey, we're going to make you a group of five. Because if you did, you'd just vote for the Mountain West to become a group of five, and no one's voting that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense? You made it like I was yelling at you. You're like, wow.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's. I hate this. I just hate to see it go away.
Yeah.
All right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever jersey outsells the Dallas Cowboys' entire team's jersey sales for the whole year. So make sure you guys stick around, and we will be back in a minute.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Earlier, we were talking about what it means for the Pac-12 to be classified as a non-autonomous FBS, conference. And now we're going to be talking about Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever jersey outsells the Dallas Cowboys' entire team's jersey sales for the whole year. So, Caitlin Clark's just keep making big move after big move.
This one's a shocker. So you're gonna hit that article, or you just want to talk through it?
Yeah. So the Dallas Cowboys are undoubtedly the most popular team in the NFL, but even they are apparently no match for the phenomenon that is Caitlin Clark. According to Dick Wise of the New York Daily News, Clark, the number one pick by the Indiana Fever in Wednesday's WNBA draft, sold more jerseys on her draft day alone than every player on the Cowboys roster combined did last year. Considering that Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons had the best-selling jersey in the NFL last year, and quarterback Dak Prescott placed 5th on the same list, Clark outselling the entire team is simply mind-blowing. And some estimates it's really hard to find the numbers in 3 minutes of Googling, saying that Cowboys sold around 250,000 jerseys last year. If that's true, it's simply insane that she sold more in just a week. But it barely is true. The WNBA merch shop gave errors because there were so many people trying to buy. And I guess whoever wrote this article said, hand up, I was one. I'm a huge Caitlin Clark head, and apparently everyone else is too. She's fantastic, and now the fans want her merch. If you do, you can go, so this was posted by Barstool Sports, and if you go to this article, it gives you links so that you can buy her jersey or her hoodie. So.
Okay. Here's the weird thing about that. The Dallas Cowboys is the biggest, most popular football brand in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say it again. The Dallas Cowboys is the biggest, most popular brand in the United States, and it's not even close. Mm-hmm. They're the richest franchise. They had two guys, Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons, two top jersey sellers in the entire NFL. And Caitlin Clark outsold them, the entire Dallas Cowboys. What the Dallas Cowboys sold in a year in jersey sales, Caitlin Clark did in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you to think about this, Faith. That's mind-blowing. That blows my mind. There's no way I would have ever thought that is even possible. If you would have told me that Taylor Swift had a Taylor Swift jersey and it outsold the Dallas Cowboys in 2 days, I'd be like, I don't know about that. I don't know if the 2 days, maybe a month,
No,
maybe a month, and maybe a
No.
month. But to say a women's basketball player is so popular that she outsold an entire NFL franchise in a couple of days is unreal. Then take into account this. How many of those people wanted a jersey but couldn't buy a jersey because they were sold out?
Yeah.
Think about if they didn't have that much merch on hand. Do you think the Iowa WNBA team was like, hey, we need to really like get our warehouses loaded up here for this? First off, you know what I mean? They were expecting it, but there was a bunch of places that were sold out of jerseys. So when you take into account that some people didn't even get their jerseys, imagine how big it would have been. I mean, she has done things that no one else has done. And I know we talk about Caitlin Clark a lot, but I want to talk about Caitlin Clark because rarely do we get the opportunity to have an athlete reaches a female athlete reach rock star status, and it's deserved. And what I mean by that, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. What I mean by that is, as I brought up the Anna Kournikova situation, you can have an athlete, she's popular because she's beautiful or she's sexy. Caitlin Clark is popular because she's just badass. You know what I mean? She's dishing dimes. She's busting threes. She's doing it all on the court, and she's doing it better than any other woman has ever done it in the history of basketball. And people are noticing it. People want to see her. People want to be a part of it. It's the highest scoring, the most viewed Final Four in the history of basketball. The most viewed women's NCAA tournament in the history of basketball. The most viewed national championship game in the history of basketball. The most highest viewed NBA draft in the history of women's basketball. A $10 million deal to go play the Big Three. She turned that down. Huge contract, shoe deal, big deal. Now, she sold more jerseys than the Dallas Cowboys sold all year in just a couple of days. But the great thing about it is, because when you look at a player, sometimes a lot of people will look at her and just say, she's just a pretty face. And she's a flash in the pan and you whoop her. But guess what? No, this woman is doing it. She's earned it. Yes, people are going to say, but she didn't win the championship. There's 160, how many, there's a ton of schools. There's at least 150 or so schools that play college basketball. She finished second, okay? No, she didn't win the championship. She was just number 2.
She didn't win the championship, but she is the all-time leading scorer for the Division I college basketball, men and women. So
exactly. That's my whole point I'm getting at. Winning the championship is a team game. She was on a team with lesser players. The better team won. South Carolina, head to toe, had more elite players. She took a lesser team, put them on her back, carried them through the NCAA tournament, which is a one-and-done tournament, and took them all the way to the NCAA championship, came out, turned pro, #1 pick, and now the highest-selling women's basketball jersey in history. that's a good thing for women's sports. That's something that more people should get behind. I am all for it. I hope, and I really hope, that when these games are played in the WNBA, that I hope she hit the ground running like LeBron did, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be curious about her. And if she comes out and she struggles initially, they're going to turn on her fast. But if she comes out and she's lighting it up from the jump, I'm hoping that some of these viewers will stay with the WNBA. Instead of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark can single-handedly change the WNBA from an organization that has lost money every single year in existence. There's never been a year that they've made even $1. On average, they anywhere from $10 to $20 million a year they lose. The first year Caitlin Clark's in the WNBA, I'm predicting that the WNBA turns a profit this year. Mm-hmm. That's the Caitlin Clark effect. And that's a changing, that's a monumental shift. And I'm hoping that some of these people will watch the game and realize, hey, this women's game is not so bad. And once you realize it's not so bad, now you're vested, because now you can watch the Tarazis and the Reeses and the Caitlin Clarks of the world and start realizing who these players are. And it doesn't hurt you. You can still love your NBA and your college basketball men's, but you can still catch some of that women's game as well. It's a good thing. This woman is changing the story.
I absolutely agree. I think if her jersey is outselling an entire NFL team, specifically the Dallas Cowboys, I really think that is a good idea of how many people are going to be tuning into WNBA games. So I'm really hoping that that will continue throughout the years, and this is not just going to be a one-time deal thing, because there are so many talented women in sports and they do not get the recognition they deserve. So I hope that this continues.
Hey, I wouldn't have believed it if you'd have told me, hey, they outsold the Arizona Cardinals or the Jacksonville Jaguars or jersey sales for the year. I'd have been like, that's not possible. Mm-hmm. But for her, she didn't beat low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. She beat the king of the mountain, the Dallas Cowboy organization, the most popular organization in sports. She outsold the entire organization in a few days.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Well, with that, we are going to close out the show for the day. Thank you so much for tuning into the Andrew Tate Show, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.